Hello and welcome back to the Dugout, episode 56. Another entertaining weekend of Scottish Premiership action. Matchday 2 has concluded. Some wonderful goals, a great selection, some wonderful games, and some surprises as well. I'm delighted to be joined by my two co-hosts today, Mr. Alexander Cruikshanks. How you doing, Alex?
Yeah, I'm good with it. I'm good. Happy to be talking about Scottish football again after another exciting week of action.
Yeah, and Laurie, obviously back from his lovely cruise away. And yeah, some brilliant goals yesterday, especially from Kilmarnock. Laurie, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well. All kind of refreshed, having been away in the Norwegian fjords for, well, 12 nights it was there. Although it feels a bit longer than that, but it's good to be back and good to be back in the swing of things with Scottish football as well. And Kelly did give me a cracker to come back to. And, well, yesterday as we record this, good to be back.
Yeah, and talking about great games and great goals, we'll just start in Paisley at the Smeeza or the Smizza. Is it the Smeeza or the Smizza Stadium?
I,
I'm
I, I
not really
want, I
sure.
want, I, want- I want to say it's the one you didn't say. I want to say it's Smizer.
Should we just
Smizer, that's probably right, Laurie. I'm going to take
call it
your word on it
St. Park?
anyway.
Should we
What is it, Alex?
should we just call it St Mirren Park to avoid any?
Yeah,
Yes.
we'll call it St Mirren Park. That's the real name. But anyway, my point was, yeah, there wasn't really much happening here. St Mirren now, Motherwell now, both clubs off the back of positive starts to the season. Motherwell probably um, should have got more than they did at home to Rangers, and St Mirren were unlucky to not take anything from Celtic Park. So despite both teams maybe on the face of the table not starting too well, I think both teams will still be happy with their starts. Do you think that would be fair to say?
Uh,
Yeah, I think.
I don't know.
Sorry.
Sorry,
Welcome back.
jump in there. I don't know about St Mirren. From what I read, a lot of the fans weren't happy with the performance. Motherwell were by far the better side. And it, they were quite, by all accounts, I think they were quite lucky to get away with a point.
Laurie?
Yes. Yeah, just kind of echoing what Alex said there. I think St Mirren fans can be a little bit frustrated, of course, from what, albeit I'm not watching maybe as much as you guys, but I feel like St Mirren so far this season, even in the Premier Sports Cup, have very much blown hot and cold, and some of the recruitment seems quite interesting, or maybe some signings you wouldn't expect, but maybe some very good signings as well, with Keanu Backus getting back into the building last week. Um, so I think St Mirren, it's been a about par start to the season, maybe, but then it depends what your expectations for St Mirren are. And then do you think they are, well, what you would think St Mirren of 4 or 5 years ago were, or are they still the kind of top six chasing team that, well, Stephen Robinson very much hopes they are? I mean, Jens Askew has really settled in quite well at Motherwell, I think, as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Motherwell played well at the weekend again. They played their football. I think a lot of people were saying St Mirren will make it difficult for them. Obviously, a physical team. They'll try and sort of put them off that style that Jens Berthasco's tried to establish really early in his tenure at Motherwell and has done pretty successfully. There wasn't really many chances at all. Motherwell had most of the ball, as you would probably expect coming into the match. St Mirren had I would say St Mirren had the better chances, but that was in the second half, and they weren't really that clear cut. Mark O'Hara and Alex Gogic had a few for Motherwell. The other talking points was that Liam Gordon misses out through injury, and Johnny Katrumbas had to come off with an injury. So they're already pretty light in the central defence area. I know Katrumbas is obviously a fullback, but that's another defender you're losing. And for St Mirren, great to have Keanu Bacchus back. I don't know what you guys think about it, but I feel like he was away for more than a season somehow. But yeah, obviously back, and
You've only been away for a season.
yeah, I think it was only a
Yeah,
season he was away at
yeah.
Mansfield Town.
I think it was only a season or maybe two maximum. I remember when he left at Midland, I was quite surprised. No disrespect to Mansfield Town, I was quite surprised that was where he ended up. Because obviously he was a guy who was kind of involved in the international setup for Australia and whatever. So I think he's someone who should come back and hopefully make a difference to that St Mirren team because I mean he left a fairly strong St Mirren side, but there's an argument that this body's team are better, so we'll see how it plays out. But it kind of came out of nowhere, to be honest. And I remember I was talking to friend of the podcast and St Mirren fan Kyle Gunn, and he was saying that he was quite surprised about back coming back when he caught wind of the deal and wasn't, and he kind of doubted whether it was going to happen and whatever. And the way he described it to me, it sounded very much like a few years ago when my club Kilmarnock brought Stuart Finlay back on loan, like first time around under Derek McInnes. I'm sure we'll get onto that exact player a little bit later in the show, albeit for his new club. But like sometimes these deals can come out of nowhere. It's something you see at a lot of the kind of provincial Scottish clubs, and I mean my club Kilmarnock are one of the worst for it in a sense of bringing back old players. Sometimes the stage never go back, but hopefully for St Mirren, Keanu Bacchus does work out.
Yeah, because it's one that you would think, as you said, it did kind of come out of nowhere. Because usually when there's talk of a fan favourite going back to their old club, there's all that hype and excitement of, oh, I can't wait for him to come back. Obviously, he was a fan favourite, and yeah, only one season he spent away. It did feel longer than that, and he played 43 games, so he was a mainstay in that team. But obviously, he just wanted to come back and join Stephen Robinson again. And Stephen Robinson, I don't know if you guys seen his comments. He came out and said that St Mirren have the second best midfield in the league, with obviously Bacchus, Phillips, and Ahara. What do you think of that? Do you think that's a bit of an overstatement?
Um,
Uh,
I don't know, to be honest. I don't know if it's an overstatement. I'm trying to think. What are there any other midfields right now that, apart from maybe Celtics, that you would take over that?
yeah, like it's a really solid like Scottish Premiership midfield to be fair. And then it's definitely in the top end of the table if you were to rank midfields.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think
I don't
domestically,
know I don't
you'd
know
have
about
to
Liam
say.
Donnelly right enough. He might be a weak link in it.
No, domestically, I think you'd have to agree with him so far. I think throughout the season, we'll obviously see other midfields crop up. I'm looking more at possibly Hearts if they continue their run, and obviously Rangers as well have that quality which they haven't shown domestically so far, but I'm sure we will see it.
Yeah,
Um,
hopefully,
moving on to the
hopefully.
what are you saying there, Alex?
Saying hopefully, but I've not
All
seen
right.
the
But
quality
yeah,
to speak of.
yeah. Um,
Yeah.
moving on to, well, it's great to have it back. One of the best stadium, possibly the best stadium name in Scottish Premiership history. History. If it's still called this, is it still
It's
called the
not,
Tony Macaroni?
not.
No,
Uh,
but it's got an equally brilliant slash terrible name. It is now called the home of the Set Fair Arena.
oh,
So it's a taxi company.
but that's two stadiums I've got wrong. Yeah, I need to pack it in. Anyway, battle of the two newly promoted sides, Livingston and Falkirk. Falkirk obviously won the championship last season. Livingston come up through the playoffs, the first team to come up through the playoffs in a number of years. And yeah, I didn't really see this result coming. Both teams started with positive results, you could say, last weekend with getting the draws. But Livingston beat Falkirk pretty easily and deservedly so. Did any of you see this one coming?
No, not really. I thought this would be a tightly contested game. I think in my predictions in the Scottish football zone, I predicted a draw. Um, although my predictions were really, really bad. I think I've predicted 6-0 to Rangers on that one. But yeah, I predicted a draw, and but Livingston, yeah, I think they're bringing something that maybe we're not expecting from them this season. Obviously, I think they were quite unlucky to be 2-0 down at half time the other week, and they got the draw in the end. And then obviously that result at the weekend. I know it's kind of because it's another promoted team. It's kind of difficult to gauge, But for me, I feel like that's kind of a statement. Going up against the team that everyone was tipping to, sort of be a dark horse this season, and they've, sat them down and comfortably beat them. So I feel like it's quite a big result for David Martindale.
Yeah, absolutely, Alex. Just to kind of again, like everyone would have maybe thought that that game on paper was going to go the other way round, really, because throughout the championship season last year, we kind of saw Falkirk, because obviously with that incredible unbeaten run they had, that stretched well over a calendar year, like everyone saw Falkirk as the main team to beat, and well, Livy again, even the championship last season, were probably seen as um, slight underdog for promotion despite being newly relegated because you saw the strength of the championship last year. Even the likes of Ayr United at one stage looked more likely to come up than what Livy did. And now, to be fair to David Martindale, he does appear to have really strengthened that Livy squad. But one thing that always stays with a David Martindale Livingston team, even the one that got relegated, is that kind of spirit and togetherness. It feels like a David Martindale team. And it feels like, and I'm not going to make any bold predictions here, I know we predicted the league a few weeks back, and I can't actually remember where I put Livingston. I was probably quite disingenuous to them based on how they started. But, they have actually been really, really impressive. And both of the newly promoted teams are trying to kind of go about things the right way, albeit in very different styles. I think the thing with Falkirk we need to watch is going forwards, they will not have an issue, but I think it's going the other way. I reckon Falkirk could be a little bit leaky, even with the experience of Scott Bain in goal and then Nicky Hogarth being on your bench. I think defensively they might struggle a bit.
Yeah, I would definitely tend to agree with that. And it's they went for very different approaches. I think I might have mentioned this last week. And the transfer window, especially Livingston, I think have signed in the region of 10 more players than Falkirk have. And I know it worked in the past for John McGlynn, sort of keeping the same core throughout League One and up to the Championship. And he's tried to do that again, adding obviously the experience of Scott Bain and Brian Graham, as you mentioned. John McGlynn,
I've not been impressed with Scott Bain.
no,
No.
not even his penalty save,
No,
no.
that was good, right? But 2 weeks in a row, he's been beating it. He's near post from a crazy, ridiculous angle.
That is
Yeah,
true.
yeah, that was a poor goal. I'll get on to that, but no, I would agree with that. But John McGlynn, he made two changes to the starting 11. He took out Scott Arfield and Brian Graham. Um, so I think he replaced them with Nisbet and McIver. So
McKeever. Yeah.
McKeever, yeah. So I think he had a full Scottish starting 11. Last week he had 10 Scottish starters with Scott Arfield. So a
Who
very
is basically
Scottish,
Scottish.
yeah, so a very Scottish theme to this John McGlynn team, which is refreshing to see because we know the problems that the clubs in the Premiership have suffered with holding on to their Scottish talents. But yeah, I think Livingston. I think you mentioned that, Alex. It was tough on them last week that they were 2-0 down at the break at Rugby Park. This time they were maybe fortunate to be 2-0 up. I wouldn't say fortunate. I think that's unfair, but there wasn't really much in the game. Obviously, Scott Pittman gets his second goal in two games and equals his tally from the last time Livingston were in the Premiership. Um, and then Lewis Smith, former Hamilton Accy man, with one of the goals of the week. I think,
Finish that.
yeah, I think any other week that usually ranks top, but we'll obviously get on to why it wasn't. And then Falkirk, well, Livingston have the penalty, which I don't think was really a debate. I think it hits Henderson's hand. They get to the right decision in the end. Robbie Muirhead steps up. Scott Bain saves. Then you think maybe it's the lifeline Falkirk need. They go up the pitch, and later in the second half, they do get one back. Ross McKeever with a brilliant header, if any of you have seen it. Calvin Miller sort of puts the ball he crosses it in from the free kick at the edge of the box, and he times his run absolutely perfectly because he starts in an offside position, manages to get back on side and flicks it in. And I think something I heard on the radio, I think, last week, and the coverage of the Falkirk Dundee United game, and I think it was something Willie Miller said that um, Ross McKeever has the best aerial ability in the Scottish Premiership, and I think that header would certainly back it up because it was a really good header. And then Livy obviously get that goal, terrible defending and quite poor goalkeeping. As 36-year-old Jeremy Bakila finishes them off, but not a really good game. Like a good advert for Scottish football when two of the newly promoted teams are coming up and really having an entertaining game with some great goals as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think having two newly promoted teams who clearly see an opportunity for themselves is massive because they don't appear to have approached the Premiership this season like the Poison Chalice. Falkirk are going to go for it, and well, maybe don't seem to be messing around either. I mean, even like I remember discussing in one of the earlier pods, like the recruitment of guys like Mo Salah, for example. You know, that's quite impressive recruitment. I'm not saying he's done much yet other than scoring an own goal at Rugby Park in the Premier Sports Cup. But generally speaking, that is, pretty solid recruitment. I remember we were all quite surprised when he ended up at Livingston. We thought he was going abroad, didn't we?
Yeah, we did, and I think we almost had him confirmed to another team. I think all the Dundee fans did anyway, and obviously he goes to Livingston. And that's a real good move for them. But no, they've got a really decent squad there with the I think 14 it was the last time I checked players they brought in. So they've obviously brought in a lot of players. The other thing that was obviously of interest at the stadium was the new pitch, playing in the Premiership for the first time, and three players went off injured in the first half. So not a very good advert for that new pitch, but no, hopefully it provides some better quality games, and it certainly did based off the weekend. I seen a stat. I think the Livingston ex admin was having some fun with the fault with taking the mick out of Falkirk.
I saw that. That was
Um,
it was like this is not a
Yeah,
fire drill. The Falkirk fans are just leaving the stadium.
leaving the stadium. Yeah, that, and I don't think it necessarily went on to X or Twitter, but on Instagram they had loads of like, as you should this weekend, they had loads of Oasis content as well.
yeah, yeah, I think they've done really well there, and obviously there is that sort of little bit of rivalry between them because obviously Falkirk did win the league last season on the final day. Livingston had that chance, but obviously it was still in Falkirk's hands, and they'll love to get one over them. The last time Falkirk actually beat Livingston was 2018 in the Scottish Cup. The last time they beat them in a league match was a decade ago. So,
Wow.
yeah, Livingston and David Martindale throughout his tenure, obviously on and off, seems to be getting the better of Falkirk. But final question on this game is obviously Livingston made a really good start. They couldn't do the unthinkable, could they? And finish in the top six and make it three consecutive seasons of a newly promoted team finishing in the top six.
I'd say probably not, but I mean, it feels way too early to rule anything in or out, especially when you were talking earlier on at the top of the show, Ethan, about Falkirk tend to be in dark horses. Some people see, or some people did see Falkirk as like top six dark horses. So I would say probably not, but never say never.
Yeah, and question to both of you is if any of you's changed your preference on, or not your preference, your opinion on who you think out of the two might finish higher? Because I think we all had Falkirk finishing above Livingston. Anyone looking to change earlier? We all still backing John McGlynn.
I had 10th and 11th, so I don't, really. Probably not. Um, I guess we'll see. I think it's interchangeable for me anyway.
Yeah, I don't think I would change anything yet because obviously, I mean, we're we're two games in and we've had quite a few surprises already. But I think maybe when teams have potentially more distractions coming in, more fixture pile-ups, games moved, even the League Cup as well. There's more distractions to come, and sometimes, for the smaller clubs that can derail you, or something that can be a welcome distraction. I've been there as well, but time will tell.
Yeah, I think I would agree with both of you. I'm still um, having Falkirk to finish slightly higher, but not a great start from Livingston. And moving on, like surely I'm going to get this one right, to Ibrox, where
Eh,
Rangers hosted Dundee, and the late kick-off, back-to-back late kick-offs on the Saturday for Rangers, dropping more points on back-to-back occasions to start the season. And I believe the stat is it's the worst start to a Scottish Premiership season since 1989. Dundee, you've got to give credit to them, scrape what you would have to say is an unlikely point, and it brings a lot of confidence and backing probably to Stephen Presley, or Elvis as he's known widely now, and also his players. So yeah, I don't really know what to say with this game. I think a draw was probably a fair result on the whole of it. Would you think? Do you think that's fair to say, Alex?
Yeah, probably. I think Rangers weren't very good. They dominated possession. Had a couple of moments in the first half that we scares. Then Dundee came out better in the second half. They came out their shell a little bit because before it was just 10 men behind the ball. So and they got a deserved goal. And then obviously Rangers get the penalty, and I think a point at the end, probably a fair result. Although I'm still feels like a loss, the way just the dreadful kind of performance, and either Rangers are worse than we all thought, or Dundee are better than we all thought, or it's a bit of both.
Yeah, quite possibly, Laurie.
yeah. Yeah, I don't really know, as you said, to answer Alex's point, and then I Dundee better than Will for or a Rangers worse. It's hard to say. It's hard to judge Rangers because I mean, Alex, you were saying off air that you kind of think, and I'm not giving too much away, but you kind of think this means that Rangers will end up doing better in Europe than they do domestically. And I mean,
Oh
that
yeah,
seems.
I think they'll go out and they'll batter Posen tomorrow in the Czech Republic, and then they'll go
But this
back
is
and
this is the
fair
problem with
sport
Rangers.
against Alloa.
Yeah, this is exactly the problem with Rangers, though. And I'm well aware that you guys would have, touched upon this last week. But like Russell Martin's comments about like mentality and leaving your egos at the door, etc., etc. Like, I mean, I feel like it sounds like a broken record. That not me having to go at him. I feel like every Rangers manager for years has said all this stuff.
Maybe.
Yeah, yeah, no, they have. I think the really interesting thing before we sort of touch on the game a bit more is that Russell Martin sort of had these comments last week, or well, you could say nearly 2 weeks ago now. Well, not nearly 2 weeks ago, just over a week ago at Fir Park, when he said that the players, there was a mentality issue. He pointed it out. He acted obviously on it with the team he named at Ibrox for the Victoria Poulsen clash, and it worked brilliantly. Rangers performed their best. They played their best performance of the season without doubt. The players that come in performed well. He chooses to keep the same lineup, rightfully so, and then it's back to the same problem, that they can't beat a team that they should be beating, even more so than Motherwell at Fir Park. They should be beating that Dundee team, and they just didn't do enough to really do it, and that just brings Rangers back to the exact same point they were at last weekend, and there's no progress being made. And
Feels
I
worse.
know, well, yeah, maybe you're saying it's worse than it's a step backwards. Step backwards. What is it? What's the saying? One step forward, two steps backwards.
Yeah,
Um,
actually.
so
Yeah.
What were you going to say,
And
Alex?
I was just saying, literally, I agree.
Yeah, yeah. And I think
yeah,
the point I was just got the final point I was going to make on Russell Martin before we go in more in depth that actually happened in the 90 minutes is that I think for Rangers managers, the problem is in recent times has never been European football. Rangers have stood out in Europe. They've stood out across Scotland and Europe. It's been domestically in the games they're expected to win that the manager hasn't been able to master it. And if Russell Martin can't master it pretty soon, then he's going to be under a lot of pressure, and he obviously is under a lot of pressure already. Rangers fans need to give him time. I'm sure a lot of level-headed Rangers fans know that. There has been some other Rangers fans. Okay, fair enough. You're a supporter. You pay your money. You're entitled to your opinion. They even want Russell Martin sacked after 2 league games, which I think is ridiculous. But Rangers need to stop sacking managers. They need to be patient with Russell Martin. They need to give him a chance, but it does need to get better because, as we said, the worst Scottish Premiership start after 2 games in nearly 40 years just isn't any sign of improvement, is it?
Do you know what will happen? I'll tell you this. We'll batter Pilsen. We'll struggle against Alloa. We'll make it through against Club Brugge. We'll probably struggle against St Mirren. And then we'll beat Celtic. That'll probably happen.
no,
I don't
but
want to
you're
make any
right though.
fans angry thinking I'm delusional. I would, I just think that's the way it will go. It's absolutely mental. It's because we can't do
Yeah,
it against the, these teams, the teams that they should be beating week in week out, and it's
yeah,
really frustrating. And you think that with a new manager, sort of brings a new dawn. Okay, we drew on the opening day. All right, you can put that down to the sort of the new style, blah blah blah. Then we do it again at Ibrox against what everyone has widely considered the clear favourites for relegation, with a manager that's become a meme in a matter of weeks. And it's really frustrating. And I think honestly, I don't want. I would rather a season where maybe we did lose to Celtic a couple of times, but still won the domestic games, and did the job instead of winning all the time in Europe, beating Celtic most of the games, and then just and then finishing like 15 points behind, crashing out the cup to blooming Queen's Park. You know what I mean? It's sorry, I just went on a bit of a rant there,
no,
Laurie. You were going to
no,
say
it's
something there, but
yeah, just to back you up, it's perfectly justified because you see Rangers do that. I mean, last season, as you point out, was perfect example. I mean, you could see Rangers like, you know, go and beat or get a draw against, or at least compete well against Celtic, where you would expect them to get to potentially lose, and then you would struggle against like a St Mirren, a Kilmarnock, or heaven forbid a Queen's Park. I mean, you're just so incredibly volatile, Rangers are, and I don't really know what's necessarily going to stop that because, well, multiple managers haven't been able to do it really. So, but yeah, Ethan, you said it as well. Giving Russell Martin time, however, is important because sacking managers doesn't seem to get you anywhere, does it?
No, definitely not. And I think it's really strange. I don't think I've seen anything. Well, obviously apart from Rangers over the last few seasons, I've not seen anything like it where a team's so good and consistent and turning up in those sort of big elite games. And then the games they're expected to win, what we call your bread and butter. Rangers just unable to do it, and I think you can touch on. I think a lot of people were saying that it's a problem with breaking a low block, but Motherwell never played a low block last weekend, and Rangers obviously struggled to get 3 points. So I think it's just a problem with Rangers and games that they're expected to win. I really don't know what the root of the cause is because I think a lot of people have said it's mentality, and that would be the obviously the standout explanation. But how do you switch that mentality? How do you Russell Martin said the mentality of the football club isn't where it needs to be. Well, how does he go about switching that? And obviously, it's going to take time. I think he said that in his post-match comments, but you don't get much time in football management anymore, and especially don't get much time in
maybe
um,
he's
being a
been
football manager in Glasgow.
promised time. And maybe and these new owners don't strike me as people that will be pressured into decisions by supporters. So maybe he's been promised a certain amount of time, a certain amount of resources, to sort of do his work.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think it's been said in the past that the 49ers consortium are kind of that arc that will just block out what the fans say. Obviously, they respect the fans, the supporters of the football club, but as running the football club as a successful business and on the pitch, I think they are known for doing what they feel is best. And if Russell Martin's the man they picked, then I'm sure they're going to back him until they can't anymore. But I think we're way off that point, even after 2 games. But just going on to the game quickly. This is a Dundee team who registered 2 shots last week at home to Hibs, and one of them was a 25-yard sort of hit and hope in the final minutes. So, I mean, I think it just shows how poor the Rangers were that they can't get, they're not able to get 3 points against this Dundee team. And obviously, things change. Dundee are developing under a new manager as well, and they'll probably get better as the season goes on. But it's not as if they've brought in loads of new signings to sort of help them in that 1 week period. I think Joe Wesley, the striker, started up top. He's one of their new signings. They obviously brought Jan Dandan as well from Hearts, which I think is a really exciting signing for them. He obviously didn't play at the weekend though. But yeah, Dundee, although there wasn't really many chances at all in the sort of the first half. Dundee probably came closest to scoring. Clark Robertson with the header that comes off the post. They had 2 headers that come off the post. One was obviously offside. Um, and then to start the second half, as Alex said, Dundee maybe encouraged and sort of go for it a little bit more. And they find the opening goal. A really well worked set piece. Callum Jones sort of pings it at the back post. Clark Robertson in there again, headers it across, and Ryan Astley with a brilliant looking header and gives Dundee the lead at that point. Just to start the second half, but there's still obviously a long way to go for them. And then, and I think something I actually noticed when I was sort of looking at the Dundee central defenders is that they have been involved in a lot of goals already. I know they haven't played very well this season, Dundee, apart from this game. But Robertson has 2 goals and assists already. Ryan Astley has 2 goals, so Dundee set pieces possibly something to watch out for. Then I want to get your guys' thoughts on the reaction to the substitution where Kieran Dowell comes on for Mohamed Diamande and seemed to be booed by sections of the Rangers support. What do you make of that, Alex?
I think it's really poor. I think I've addressed stuff like that before. To boo anyone that plays for your club, I just or boo just booing in general, even after the result as well. I don't rate it. Obviously, they know you're not happy, but just like I'm booing a player when he's coming on the pitch. He's not been great, but he's not going to get any better if you're booing him before he's even kicked a ball. So just leave it be. I think it's really poor behaviour, I think, and I hate that it's sort of become a thing over the recent years at Ibrox.
Yeah,
Or
absolutely. Just it's common sense and common decency. Leave the guy alone. It's not whether he's been in good form on the pitch or not. You know, he's at least got the courage to step out there, and it's not it's not acceptable to be booing a player. I mean, obviously, and Alex, you can say a lot more about this than me, but there's always this kind of preconceived idea that the Ibrox faithful are quick to get on the players' backs, and whether it's true or not is beside the point. It almost just reinforces that stereotype, which I'm sure the Rangers fans wouldn't want.
I think it is true to an extent for some of the support. Others like myself and other people I know are a bit more level-headed. Um, you know, obviously, I am not saying I'm people will call me a happy clapper, so to speak. I'm not happy with the situation, but I'm not going to go out and boo my own players before, when they're getting subbed on. I'm not going to boo, you're supporting this club, right? You want these players to do well. And I'm sure if in a couple of months' time, if Rangers are top of the league and Kieran Dow scored a couple of goals, all those same people will be loving him, you know? So
Exactly.
I think it's really poor behaviour and hypocritical, sort of, and it's I don't rate it at all. And and people can call me a happy clapper if they want, but I'm definitely not sitting there going, it's all right, just let them. I'm not. I'm criticizing them, which I'm allowed to do, and people are allowed to boo as well. It's their own opinion, but I think it's really really shocking behaviour, and it sort of speaks to I think a lot of people's kind of mentality and their kind of character. Um, so I don't know if I've been a wee bit too sort of harsh there or scathing, but I really don't rate it.
No, I would agree with what both of you guys said. I think there is very little things that could make someone deserving of that reception, and certainly football related on the pitch issues is certainly not one of them. You've got to keep in mind as well, Russell Martin came out and said that he's playing him out of position, or he has played him out of position, and credit to Kieran Dow, from what I've seen and heard, he came on and got on the ball and tried to make an impact for Rangers. Then quickly following that, obviously the other sort of flashpoint in the game, Rangers reduced to 10 men. Dundee, a bit of a mix of Dundee setting up a sort of trap in midfield and a poor pass from John Souttar. They turn over the ball. Wesley makes a good pass in behind that takes the whole Rangers defence out of the game. And Finlay Robertson is clipped by Nasser Dajiga, and then Don Robertson has no option but to send him off. And at that point,
I think Jiga's unlucky there. Smart play from Robertson, getting across him, and Jiga's trying to cover the mistakes. He's actually been all right. He's one of the ones that I'd say has been decent. He's had a couple of moments, but nothing catastrophic, and he's put in some important challenges, and he's decent on the ball. So I think he's unlucky there, but it is definitely a red card.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There's not really much he can do, but he sort of accepts it at the time that it's the only real option for the referee. Then Rangers sort of huffed and puffed. They didn't really. I think they sort of lacked that intensity for large parts of the second half to really go and find an equaliser. And then I'd say as the game got closer to the climax, they did sort of speed up a bit. Then they obviously get the penalty and the injury time. Give and go from Nico Raskin and Djedi Gassama. He gets across straight right, and I think this one is going to go down as one that will be possibly in Willie Collum's VR discussion, because it could have easily went either way. I think. Do you think that would be fair to say?
No, I don't think that's fair to say. I think people
Okay.
are ignoring the full clip, to be totally honest. Because if you look at it, before all the stuff that people are focusing on, he takes his leg, and then Gassama's stumbling, and then it's all the pulling and falling and all that. But he takes his leg initially before they've even properly come together. I think it's a stonewall penalty, and it's people are blowing it out of proportion. Saying, "Oh, would any other team get in the league get this penalty?" Yes, because it's a penalty.
The penalty. I mean, of course, it's the easy meme and the easy get out. Penalty Rangers and all this, and because of the time in the game and all of that. But a penalty is a penalty. Like if it was, I don't know, for example, just plucking a team out of the sky. If it was Motherwell, for example, their fans would moan them for the penalty as well. It's not any different.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think it's a Rangers separate issue. I think it's a soft penalty. And I think when I first looked at it, and the first few times I looked at it, I thought, yeah, clear penalty. But the more I sort of look at it, the more I think I understand what Alex is referring to with the initial sort of coming together. But Gassama plays on, and then he sort of slows down in front of Dre Wright and kicks his legs up. So I think it's really well
Well,
played from Gassama.
if we're going to make that argument, Robertson slows down in front.
No, no, I know, no, I know. Right, okay, I know he does, and I know this might have come up, but I think the difference is I think Finlay Robertson's a lot more cute with it, whereas I think Desedi Gasama makes it a lot more like obvious he's trying to play for it, and it's by no means his fault. He gets across his defender, and he does really well to earn the penalty. It's up to the referees. He's put the referees in the position to make a decision. I just think Dundee will look back on that as a really harsh way to lose the 3 points. But at the end of
I
the day, I think it's one where
see. While we're on this, I think Rangers were denied a Stonewall penalty in the first half.
I haven't seen this.
It was
No,
an
haven't seen it
incident.
either, in fairness.
It was an incident where um, they were chasing a loose ball, and Ant-Man and Dessers and the Dundee player comes round Dessers and he literally jumps into the back of Ant-Man. Referee's about to give a foul, but Rangers get the ball and plays on. He was going to give a free kick, but it was in the box. So what's going on there? Why haven't VAR looked at that and given? I don't know. But anyway,
I
uh,
haven't seen that one. I'll have to go and try and find that. But that's one I think I was just going to say. I think it's one where if they had given the penalty like they did, VAR won't intervene. If they didn't give the penalty, then VAR, I don't think would have intervened. I think it's one that could have went either way. And unfortunately, there's a grey area with these type of things. So it's unfortunate for Dundee, but credit to James Tavernier because obviously he's come under a lot of pressure recently. No, Russell Martin doesn't like the word dropped, but he did drop him for the game at Fir Park, and he didn't start. Not the game at Fir Park. Sorry, the game during the week at Ibrox, and then obviously didn't make his way back into the starting 11, but comes on, takes responsibility off Cyril Dessers for the penalty as the captain, and tucks it away well. And you have that. I think you always have that feeling. I don't know about you guys, but when Celtic or Rangers are losing and they get that late goal, there's always that feeling that they'll go on and get another one. And it looked like Rangers did. It was a really actually well worked goal, although obviously it was offside. Two brilliant passes I thought from Gassama and Danilo. And then, but Cyril Dessers is offside for both of the passes. I think Cyril Dessers, I think it is pretty poor from him. He's offside for the whole move where he really should be onside, if you know what I'm trying to say. But not a good finish from him, but obviously offside, and the Rangers sort of jubilation is cut short, and then it shortly turns to boos, and you can understand why. We obviously said about we are, I don't think, believers of booing, but fans are,
No,
as I said earlier, they pay their money and they're rightful to their opinion.
yeah, definitely. And that offside goal, it was frustrating to see him lingering like that. The way it should have been done is perhaps he's offside for the initial pass or during the move, and then he takes a step onside and then back like McKeever's goal
yeah,
against Livingston.
yeah.
That movement.
It's just quite naive, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's a bit lazy, and yeah, it was quite frustrating because I was up celebrating, relieved, and then I saw the replay first, and I looked at it and went, "Oh God, he's offside." And I had Michael Stewart in my ear going, he's offside. He's offside." We know Michael, mate. But anyway, honestly, this is a separate issue. But Michael Stewart is one of the worst co-commentators ever. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't analyze. He just shouts.
He shouts and he gives his opinions, and it might not even be opinions on football. We can get opinions on politics as well. I remember listening to
I
one
know
game in particular,
failed
and
MP
I'm not.
as well.
Yeah, I'm going to say I'm not going to name which game it is. Some of the listeners might be able to work it out, right? and you guys might be able to. I remember listening to or watching the game, listening to him co-commentate along with Rory Hamilton, and he spent the entire second half of the game talking about Scottish nationalism.
Unbelievable.
Aye.
Uh, um, no, moving on from poor commentators. I think we spoke a lot about Rangers, but I think we've got to give a lot of credit to Dundee and Stephen Presley as well because they've come under a lot of pressure. Obviously, a lot of people, including ourselves, have all tipped them to finish rock bottom, I believe, and you can see why. That the squad looked like it didn't have enough quality. They obviously lost a lot of players. Stephen Presley's comments are at some points mind-boggling, but he gets the result, and they'll be hoping they can build on that now.
No,
Absolutely. I think it could be, well, I'm not going to say a springboard for Dundee or the start of anything special because we do think, and I still think fairly confidently, they'll be down near the bottom of the table, and so does Stephen Presley. I mean, he keeps reminding us that his team aren't ready and this, that, and the next thing. But the reality is, they're probably not that bad in the sense of, is this team much worse than what Tony Docherty had? Yes, maybe Tony Docherty was seen as being a bit more, for want of a better word, competent. But if you can get a point at Ibrox, even if it's not the greatest Rangers team in the world, that can only bode well. Although in the League Cup against low league opposition, they did struggle.
Yeah. Moving on to Pittodrie. First of the Sunday games as Aberdeen hosted Celtic. Aberdeen looking to go off the mark after a poor result and poor performance at Tynecastle. And you would have to say, sort of same again. They really didn't look like they were up to much in this game against Celtic. Celtic very similar to their win over St Mirren. Wasn't perfect. They were good in points. They were lacklustre in points. But they get a win, 2 wins, 2 clean sheets, and I think the Celtic fans will be really happy with that, considering where the squad is, Alex.
yeah, uh, they would be, and they've Celtic have had their issues. The performances haven't been perfect, but the fact is they've got 2 wins from 2 and 6 points on the board. So that's the end goal at the end of the day. I'm sure it would be fun watching Ethan, but I'm sure you'd take a league title win, even if every performance in the season wasn't perfect. So you just so at the end of the day they get the win. Benjamin Negren gets his first competitive goal for Celtic. A really nice finish from Rayo Hatate as well, sort of
Yeah.
sealing the deal. And if they can get the job done without sort of the kind of additions that the Celtic fans want, then it could be a decent season for them if they get the players in. I think Brendan Rodgers mentioned that he wants to get some business done before the Champions League deadline, before they need to submit their squad for the playoff round. So yeah, it should be interesting to see what's coming for Celtic in the next week or so. Might see some new faces in the door, and sort of just build on what has been a fairly positive start for them.
Yeah. And I think, and Ethan, you can come
Yeah,
in here
Laurie.
because you're much more informed than us two. But from what I saw yesterday, as we record this, well, I think Kieran Tierney looked back to his best as well. Obviously, the ball he puts in, which Negrin does attack, that's like reminiscent of the Kieran Tierney we used to see when he was in the SPFL before. I mean, of course, obviously with Kieran there is fitness doubts and whatever, but if he can stay fit like that, he's still the player that you hoped he was, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think he's shown in moments across the first 2 games that he is that sort of caliber player that is just a level above what he's up against. And yeah, Celtic players probably should be that, but He does seem like a player that has just came from a Premier League club. But the really strange thing surrounding Kieran Tierney at the moment is his fitness, and I think, of course, he has had a terrible time with injuries and staying fit on a regular basis. But Brendan Rodgers said post match that he was impressed that Kieran Tierney managed to play as long as he did. I think just over 60 minutes, because he was throwing up all over the dressing room at half time. And it is strange because it's not as if he's coming out of the cold. He did play. He did play quite a bit for Arsenal. Cameos. He did start the last game of the season for them against Southampton. So it's strange that he's still struggling. That he's still that far off the mark of playing that full 90 minutes. Obviously, I'm not an expert on fitness for a football player, but I don't know. I found that quite strange.
I think when you've had setbacks for years, it can be tough. I mean, Rangers have seen it. Sorry, Laurie. Rangers have seen it with many players over the years coming back and trying to get into the swing of things. And, it is difficult to get back to match fitness if you're constantly injured. So maybe that could be an issue for Kieran Tierney.
Yeah, I think Alex could be right there. Of course, the number of setbacks he's had, it has been very unfortunate. But bear in mind as well, it kind of pains me to say this because players don't want, you to kiss the backside or give them too much credit. But I mean, the fact that if you said, Alex, that Brendan Rodgers came out and said that he was spewing all over the dressing room at halftime, fair play to him for keeping going. Most players, maybe if you had some less setback in your career, would say, no, I'm sitting this second half out, whereas he's went, I'm going back out there, even if it is just to prove a point.
Yeah, exactly that. Also, possibly, I think the other thing that was highlighted was that in back-to-back games, Kieran Tierney's been brought off. Obviously, as we mentioned, he's obviously not up to. He's not sort of been able to get fit enough to play that 90 minutes, and it is obviously difficult with the setbacks he's had. But Brendan Rodgers knows that he's not going to be able to play 90 minutes, and he's not got any left back on the bench. Hayato Inamura did look good in pre-season, but he's not been named on the bench for any of the opening two games. So I think it's pretty obvious, along with the attacking areas that Celtic need, that they are going to need to sign another left back, or Brendan Rodgers is certainly hinting at that. The other sort of areas I mentioned is obviously the wide areas. James Forrest started the match instead of Yang. I could have seen that one coming after both of their performances last week. James Forrest sort of changed the match when he came on. And then the other sort of things I picked up, Alistair Johnston made way for Anthony Ralston late on. Johnston sort of picked up a knock against St Mirren, but I'm not sure what his status is. If it was just a sort of just a change late on in the game, or what's going on there. But I think he should be okay.
Try to protect him. Maybe he was still carrying it a little bit.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there. And then the other thing that he made, the substitution that Brendan Rodgers made. We know that Brendan Rodgers is very strategic with this kind of stuff, with substitutions, what he says in the press conferences and stuff like that. And he didn't bring Yang off the bench. And I think that's very interesting that he didn't bring any winger off the bench. He chose to bring Luke McCowan and Arne Engels on, as he did last week. Pushed Benjamin Nygren out to the wing, which we've obviously seen he can play from his time in Denmark with Nordsjælland. And then Shin Yamada comes on to make his full Celtic or his competitive Celtic debut, in place of Adam Idah, who had another really lacklustre afternoon. I think the Celtic fans are starting to grow frustrated with him as well. Johnny Kenny doesn't go on the pitch after signing him. Yeah, he was okay. He looked sharp for only playing 45 minutes a pre-season, but the game was really stop-start towards the end, and he didn't really get much of it. But he did look sharp in points. But I think we'll see a lot more from him, especially if Adam Idah continues to play as he has done, not playing very well. I know the service isn't always there, but he's not been great in the opening two games. And yeah, I think two well-worked goals. The second one, a brilliant strike from Real Tati, as you said, Alex, and it would probably be in the conversation for goal of the week if it was on any other week. But yeah, I've just got a couple questions to pose to you guys. What areas do you think Celtic need to strengthen in? Alex?
Wingers, probably at least two, right and left. Just bolster it. Another left back, and well, they've just brought in Jemai Simpson Pusey, so I don't know about the centre back situation just yet. Um, Maybe he'll be really good, and then they have their four. That'll be fine. But I think essentially right now it's two wingers and a left back, maybe a striker. I don't. I know it's not a great situation up top, but I don't think it's as high a priority as those other positions should be. Although Brendan Rodgers seems to think another central midfielder is a priority.
Yeah, I would agree, Laurie.
I would actually totally back up what Alex said. I don't really know what Celtic want in our centre mid for, but anyway, I think they may have blown their chance in getting a good homegrown one as well. Just saying, but yeah, I think the wingers is interesting because you notice yesterday, and no disrespect to this player, but like Brendan Rodgers is still relying on like James Forrest, who's what now 34 even.
Yeah,
And I
I think
mean,
so,
to
yeah.
be fair, Brendan said before, like, I can't think when, but it was at least when he came back to Celtic second time around, that he still considers James Forrest his best winger at the club. And that's no slight on James Forrest. If anything, it's a massive compliment. But like, they need more depth in there, especially if, like last season, they want to make the most of their time in the Champions League as well. And left back, they clearly need depth. Centre back, as you say, with Simpson Pusey, you can't really comment yet. Although to be fair, I don't know if I missed someone here, but the last defender you got on loan from Man City wasn't half bad, and Jason Denayer.
Yeah, definitely. I think he was the last one, although there might have been someone else. No, I think you're right. I think he was the last one. He was pretty decent.
Right. I was thinking Dedrick Boyata, but he was a permanent.
Yeah, he was a permanent. And then obviously Jeremy Frimpong, permanent as well. Um, what was I going to say? I think, yeah, I would agree with what both of you said. I think Celtic in the midfield areas, especially, I don't really understand the links. You've got Paulo Bernardo sitting there who can't even go on the pitch. And I think he's been a really good player for Celtic in points, possibly not consistent enough as to why he doesn't get any minutes. But I think a few Celtic fans want to see him break back into the fold. And another question before we touch on Aberdeen a little bit. Knowing the Celtic board and how they act, do you think Rangers' start to the season will hinder the business that Celtic do from a sort of Celtic fans perspective?
It's tough to say. I mean, I get why we asked the question because it's very valid, but then to me, and I'm saying this is not a Celtic fan, of course, but it's maybe a repeat Celtic fan that I'm about to say. To me, if you do that, it kind of reeks of complacency a little bit. Because yes, Rangers look rank outsiders for a title, and I'm maybe being a little bit generous there, but that doesn't mean not to strengthen. I mean, of course, the best time to strengthen is when you're already leading the pack. So it would be a little bit complacent with the Celtic board if they did something like that. But as you've kind of alluded to, even maybe not entirely out of character.
Yeah, but Alex, have you got any thoughts on that? It's just a sort of hypothetical question.
Um, Not really.
No,
Nah,
fair enough.
I don't. I don't think. I don't. I think that the just a little thought. I think that the Celtic board have definitely have an element of they'll do what they can to stay comfortable domestically. Maybe they're not as ambitious as they should be. However, I don't think they're looking directly at Rangers and going, we're all right, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's kind of my answer to that.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I think that, well, Aberdeen, I just wanted to say again, I think I touched on it at the start. There's not really much to say for Aberdeen. They've played two games, they've not scored any goals. I know they've had the most difficult start to the season of any team fixtures wise, but yeah, they've been really lacklustre in their start. And I don't know if any of you have seen Aberdeen. I think Alex, you might have seen their first game against Hearts, but Cassini Yenge has started very poorly, and I think the Aberdeen fans have given up on him already. He even blocked one of his teammates' shots inadvertently yesterday, which sums up his
Yeah, I
Aberdeen
saw that.
career so far. Um, so it's really not going well for him, and I think Aberdeen need to get another striker because him and Sockler aren't going to be able to provide the goals that they're looking for if you had to go off the first two games of the season.
Yeah, I think that's a real worry for them. I think it is. I mean, obviously they were talking yesterday, the little bit of coverage on Sky Sports that I did catch about how they've obviously lost a lot of goals from the Aberdeen side with obviously Papi Gay leaving, Kevin Nisbet's loan ending. I don't know what his situation is down south at Millwall, obviously. And obviously Jamie McGrath as well chipped in with quite a few goals and has started pretty well in Leaf also. So I think Aberdeen will be frustrated at that. So it's not necessarily just a striker or someone at the top end, but Yemi Feline does definitely need that before the window shuts, that's for sure.
Yeah, and the pressure's definitely mounting on Jimmy Tilleen because the credit in the bank from that Scottish Cup win won't last forever. And I think not Scott, sorry, Chris Boyd made the point on Sky yesterday that possibly that Scottish Cup win papers over the cracks a little bit. And you would have to agree based off the recent league form, both at the start of this season and at the end of last season. But I think that might be too early to say because it has two very difficult games they've had to play, and we'll judge Jimmy Tilleen and his new squad off of more fixtures where they'll expect points. Probably leaving the two best games for last. We'll go to Easter Road first. Finished Hibernian 2, Kilmarnock 2. Hibs look to join their Edinburgh counterparts and Celtic at the summit, but drop points to a brilliant Kilmarnock fight back. Two each draws in the bounce for Stuart Kettlewell to start his Kilmarnock reign, and you must be happy with that, Laurie, going into that game. I imagine you obviously would have guessed it would have been a difficult game, so are you happy with a draw there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Kelly's records, well, away from home generally, but Kelly's record, particularly Easter Road, is pretty poor. Um, we hadn't actually scored at Easter Road since I want to say 2020, before yesterday. So yeah, and then obviously when you go 2-0 down to fight back and get a point, you've got to be pleased. I would have taken a draw before the game as well, but obviously from hearing from people who were there and also having discussions on the Kelly View last night, um, everyone was rather pleased with how we played. There were a few standouts in there, of course, and certainly a standout goal as well, which you alluded to earlier, Ethan.
Yeah, definitely. We'll get on to that. I was just looking at the lineups. Hibs made three changes. Obviously, they had that very excellent performance and result in Belgrade during the week. We'll touch on the European action for the Scottish clubs in a separate video, which should be out probably out tomorrow as we're recording this on Tuesday. But Grant Hanley, obviously the recent Hibs signing, was handed his debut. And David Gray made two other changes to sort of balance the European action. Kilmarnock made three changes as well. One of them obviously forced with Stanger missing with the suspension of the red card they obviously picked up last week. And I thought it was interesting. You'll probably know more about this guy than I do, Laurie, but Ethan Shelty Brown, is it? The
Yeah,
young
yeah.
central
I'm not
defender who
entirely
made
sure how
his.
to pronounce the middle name, but yeah, Ethan Brown is quite a well-regarded young defender who's been in and around the first team picture for a while. He was named in a couple of squads toward the end of last season. I mean, I think Derek McInnes named him on a couple of benches. Chris Burke did as well. and then he was on the bench for a lot of the League Cup. Kelly fans were actually expecting him to feature in the League Cup. He's a guy who has been well regarded for quite a few years and is actually a youth international for Canada, and was a big part of Kelly's reserve side, who of course reached the cup final, albeit losing out to Dunfermline in the end last season. But he's a guy who, from what I could see, based on sports scene highlights and indeed anecdotal evidence of people who were there, he did acquit himself rather well. However, he will be feeling somewhat responsible for Hibs' first goal, where he gives away what is quite a cheap free kick. Yes, the Hibs player goes down quite easily. There was a wee bit of naive defending, but other than that, he acquitted himself rather well, especially for being flung in at the deep end.
Yeah, that's something that Stuart Kettlewell's obviously done really well since he's come in. That he's got well, he's bringing youth players up and giving them the chance in the first team. Obviously, it's easier to do when the B team makes the cup final, as you said. So then, as you mentioned, Hibs opened the scoring in the 20th minute. The free kick from the wing. Jamie McGrath sort of whips it in, a really direct free kick right on the head of Rocky Bashiri, who just gets up and heads it in. That's his second goal already this season. Obviously scored at home to FC Midtjylland in the Europa League qualifying, the last round. And then the two other changes for Hibs to the starting 11, along with Grant Hanley, was Junior Hoylett and Eli Yuan. They both combined for a pretty nice second goal. Junior Hoylett slips it through a really nice through ball to get Eli Yuan through, and he sort of plays it, not the best finish, but he plays it through, and it goes through Max Stryjek. It's unlucky from the goalkeeper, but Hibs are looking really good at that point. 27 minutes in, you'd have to say, Laurie.
Yeah, they were cruising, it seemed, and it seems like Kelly's goal was getting peppered as well. So yeah, I think maybe we were fortunate to not be more down. Not to say at all that Kelly played badly, but yeah, just I think we were fortunate. However, we got the goal, or we got a goal back through Liam Polworth right in the nick of time, at the perfect time, you could say, just before the break, which obviously set us up for, obviously, even for David Gray, an entirely different team talk, and probably for Kelly and Stuart Kettlewell, a more positive outlook on things, and we appeared to come out an entirely different team in the second half. Of course, we get ourselves level, which we'll give a bit of credence to in a moment. But then some Kelly fans are a little bit aggrieved that we didn't actually win the game, because of a chance where Gennaro Daniel, Dutch striker, does really well to see off the Hibs defender, but whether it's out of lack of vision or a little bit of selfishness, doesn't see David Watson making a brilliant run. And if Daniel squares it to Watson, it is most likely 3-2 to Kilmarnock. And if you watch back the highlights, you can see young David Watson going absolutely mental at his striker.
Yeah, I didn't actually see that, but yeah, Kilmarnock, as you said, were definitely better in the second half. The first half, I think Hibs had a lot of shots, but apart from the two chances, which they obviously took for the goals, there wasn't really much clear-cut chances. So I think 2-0 was probably a fair result. But then obviously Kelly do get that goal, but right before half time to bring themselves back into the game. Marcus Stackers, I thought, done really well for that goal out wide. I know the Hibs defending's pretty questionable, but he does well to bring it towards the goal, and then obviously the cutback eventually finds Liam Polworth, who scores, and now he has more goals in this. Well, he has the same amount of goals and assists this season as he did in the entirety of last season already. And then 3 minutes into the second half, what can only be described as very I'm very confident it's going to be up there for goal of the season, if not goal of the season. A ridiculous strike from Ben Brannan, Laurie.
All luck.
You're saying it's all luck, Alex. I mean, there was, to be fair to Ben, there was certainly luck involved, because but then it may well be the best goal he'll ever score, albeit he's already scored what 4 goals this season. 4 goals from wing back is pretty impressive. So for anyone who doesn't actually know, I'll give you this a bit of context. So Ben Brannan is like a natural right back, right wing back. But a lot of the time, not so much always, but a lot of the time he's actually been playing on the left hand side for Kelly with Jamie Brandon on the other side. I know Brannan and Brandon, so fairly easy to actually get mixed up. But he has done really, really well. And I don't know where he gets this natural flair for goal scoring from, whether it's the kind of positive side of youthful naivety, I'm not sure, but what a strike that was. I mean, I say youthful naivety, I mean in the sense of to even have the audacity almost to attempt a strike like that, and even be able to like swivel and like, rotate your body in time to kind of hit a volley as sweetly as that. No goalkeeper is ever stopping that. I mean, just incredible, really. Maybe a bit of luck though, yeah.
Alex, you have anything more to add to that?
No, not really. I was kidding on when I said it was luck. I think it was
Yeah, I
I
think
mean, I mean, no, although it's lucky in the sense of, and I'm sure Ben would admit this, you're probably never gonna hit a strike like that again, are you?
yeah, but I think that's a a once
Yeah,
in a career goal for most players. To be fair, I mean, as you said, the sort of technique he gets on it, and he's moving back at the time as well. He has to move back to adjust himself to catch it properly, and yeah, it's just a ridiculous goal. It reminded me a lot of Mateo Kovacic's goal for Chelsea against Liverpool. Not quite as good, I would say, but similar in that thing that it comes to the edge of the box, he has to step back and volleys it. Yeah, just a ridiculous goal. And yeah, he's been a real bright spot for Kilmarnock, as you said, 4 goals already this season from wing back. I think I might have mentioned him last week. I don't know if I did or not. But anyway, yeah, he's definitely burst onto the scene, you could say.
like
And
Richards.
yeah, like Micah
hopefully
Richards,
they're a little bit
full.
better than Micah Richards, though, although Micah Richards is a free Alex because right back was one of his positions.
Yeah. And that a really nice thing to see with the goal as well was that it was the two other sort of youth Kilmarnock youth products that were over first to celebrate with him, which I thought was pretty
Yeah,
special. But
I
a goal
liked
that,
I
that he,
liked big Marcus Dacker's reaction as well. You just see him like that, just
isn't it?
standing.
Wow.
yeah, it
As
is
in, I'm a
a
stri-
great goal.
that's the reaction of I'm a striker who only scored 1 goal in League Two last season.
Did well for your first goal, to be fair.
No, he did. He did. In fairness, he did. And
Shane,
Marcus Dacker's actually playing okay.
yeah,
He
Shane
just needs to obviously take
Thackeray's
some lessons from the
absolutely.
right back.
Yeah, and I think he was saying Ben Brandon after the game he was getting interviewed and he said in the interviewer asked him, "Is that something you have in your locker?" And he went, "No, but I just sort of I was going to pass it or bring it down, try and recycle the ball, but I just thought I'll take a shot on." And I think we always speak about the fearless nature that players of that age play with, and you could say that's a perfect example of that. And it's really refreshing to see that when sort of Scottish youth products aren't really getting the chance, that Stuart Kettlewell and Kilmarnock are doing a real good job of that. And for Kilmarnock, a really decent point, as we said. A good start to the season for them. Good Premier Sports Cup campaign thus far. Good start to the league season. For Hibs, they'll feel like it's a missed opportunity going two ahead um, to stay with Hearts and Celtic at the pace at the top of the table, and hopefully Hibs don't blow a 2-0 lead on Thursday night, because obviously we hope that all the Scottish teams progress and do well. Moving on to another team that done very well on Thursday night, Dundee United, away from home in Vienna. They were back at home at Tannadice at the same time, hosting Heart of Midlothian, who obviously started the season really well with that win at Tawdry. And would it be fair to say this was game of the weekend, Alex?
Yeah, and well, for Laurie, I think Derek McInnes alluded to it. Now you must be raging that he's found his goal scoring form in a Jambo shirt. Stuart Findlay, the joint top scorer in the Scottish Premiership, 3 goals in 2 games.
Yeah, a little bit frustrated at it. To be fair to Big Stu, he always had that in him, the kind of goal scoring instinct, even for a defender. You know, he is one of those guys who is a real threat at set pieces, and is actually a fairly decent striker with the ball. He used to, at Kilmarnock, ironically enough, have a habit of scoring at Tynecastle. You see the irony there. But yeah, raging that he's doing it in a Hearts shirt and not in blue and white stripes.
Yeah, but it's just so strange that a centre back's doing so well in an attack in front. I think a lot of the Hearts fans were giving credit to the set piece coach, and rightfully so. Obviously, Hearts took the lead in the 19th minute. Lawrence Shankland converted a penalty. Really strange.
Stuart Findlay won the penalty as well. So don't
Yeah,
get
and really, he did. He did. Yeah, you're right. And really strange defending from Jovu, I think it was the Moldovan central defender. I really don't know what he was what he was trying to do, but he just pulled Finlay to the floor. It was a pretty clear penalty. And then obviously Shanklin steps up and converts. And how many goals has that Shanklin's got already this season? 4 already for him. And I believe that was on his birthday yesterday as well. So a good day for him all round.
just on Shankland as well. I don't think he holds any love for his former side because he celebrated that goal, but I don't know if you saw
I
uh,
did.
the winner. He's screaming into the crowd. He's
Yeah,
loving it. Simon Murray-esque.
yeah, definitely.
I mean, Simon Murray's a good comparison. I mean, he's played for both sides of Dundee as well, and you know he knows what it's like. He knows what it's like to cross a rivalry divide. So again, they've maybe both got that. Well, excuse the slight pun here if you're a Hearts fan or Lawrence Shankland. Maybe I've got that kind of heartless streak in you.
Yeah. And he looks back to his best, which is nice to see because obviously it was a difficult season for him last campaign, a difficult season for Hearts as a whole. But right after pretty much the restart, Dundee United level, another set piece, Ivan Dolcek with a free kick, and he's looking like a really bright spark, a really good signing. We'll get on to um,
One point I just want to make on it. All his goals though he scored. I think you could blame the keeper for every single goal he scored in the league.
possibly, yeah.
I blamed Scott
With
Bain
Dolce,
last
yeah.
week. The free kick, I think Xander Clark should have done a bit better. And then obviously with his goal later, Xander Clark definitely should have done a bit better.
Yeah, and it was very similar to his goal last week at Falkirk. Pinucci Kamara with the assist again, sliding them through, and he finishes again just before half time. 3 goals in 2 games, joint top scorer, as Alex kind of alluded to, with Stuart Finlay, obviously. Um, and then Hearts sort of try and fight back into the game in the second half. They're obviously looking to win every game to try and win the league, as Tony Bloom hopes for. And then in the 58th minute, Stuart Finlay gets his first header. I think it's Harry Milne that crosses it. A really good header from Finlay, but I think poor defending from Dundee United. They'll be disappointed with the defending. It was a bit of a cheap goal to lose. But I don't know what you think of this. Maybe I'm being an idiot, so tell me if I am. But
You're
when
an
Hearts, no, no, before I make my point, please. If when Hearts scored, Stuart Finlay celebrated like a defender that doesn't score many goals. But there was no Hearts player for a good maybe 10 seconds that went and collected the ball. And I think if Hearts are going to be a club that Tony Bloom thinks are going to try and win a league title, then the mentality needs to be that you need to go and pick up the ball out of Dundee United's goal and go again. Do you think that would be fair to say?
No, I think you're reading into things too much.
I think
Really?
that must be a wee bit harsh. And to be fair, they're a little bit cringy, but Stuart Finlay does quite like goal celebration. He did one years ago. It may well have even been like a Fortnite dance or something. It was something a horribly cringy dance, but he does actually quite like his goal celebration and take them seriously. So I think he would take offence to you there. But I get your point though around mentality, and maybe you see it from like a Celtic fan perspective or a winner's perspective almost of like mentality of champions and all this. But like I think it has been the thing a wee bit much.
No, I think I'm open to that idea. I just thought it was an interesting point to make, because I think every time you see Celtic and Rangers, you've seen it obviously with James Tavernier with his goal at the weekend. When they get an equaliser, they get the ball and they go again. And the Hearts players were kind of running about celebrating. Like, oh, it's great to get an equaliser at a tough place, of course, but I think that's if Tony Bloom wants them to really go for a Scottish Premiership title, then they'll need to
I don't know. I just think you're reading into it, to be totally honest.
possibly. I mean, at the end of the day,
And as
I'm
well,
just
see grabbing the ball realistically, that doesn't like quicken anything. The other team can
well,
still
it does, it
but it
does,
doesn't. They can still take as long as they want to restart. They can still do what they
yeah,
want.
but it keeps momentum, doesn't it?
No, I've always thought getting the ball thing was weird. Our coach and when we played, he whenever we did it, he'd rip into us and he'd go, "No, it doesn't matter. You don't need to do that. Doesn't like add," and it just that like leads to like scraps in the goal and stuff like that. I think it's I don't know. I don't think it keeps momentum. I don't think it does anything really. And you could and Ethan they ended up winning, so I don't think
Yeah,
not
I know.
grabbing the ball, to pierce their mentality or pierce their style of play or did anything to the detriment of the team, because they got the 3 points.
Yeah, of course they did, and I'm playing devil's
And
advocate slightly. I
and
do
to,
think
and to be fair, you're entitled to play devil's advocate, but I think as well, a lot of the 3 points were down to, well, that man who you say can he celebrate. So there you go.
no, I just think strikers, they seem like calculated in their celebrations. They kind of know what they're doing. Stuart Finlay, credit to him, two brilliant headers. The second one as well, a really nice set piece he
Can we
gets across the
dive
front
into
post
this
and
like
headers it in.
weird kind of tangent you've went on here? This we're trying to analyze football, not psychoanalyze celebrations, and people don't pick
It's
up the
just a point. It's just a point.
it's
You know, it's
well
just a point.
it's a bad point. So let's move
So
on.
you're telling me you think if Celtic and Rangers had got an equaliser
No, they wouldn't have
around
done
the
that.
hour
They
mark?
would have went for the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
It's different though.
But yeah, I agree. It's different. The point I'm making is that Tony Bloom's saying that Hearts should be a team that's competing for the title. So if they're going to compete for the title, then surely
I
they
just
should
don't
have
think
the mentality.
it's that big of a deal.
No, it's not. It's not. I'm making
What's
a. I'm
mentality for
just
you?
posing a question. It's very hypothetical
Bad
because Hearts
question.
obviously. What is it?
A bad question.
Yeah, well, not every question is a good one. What is it? No question's a bad one. Is that the same? Or no question's a stupid question. But anyway, Stuart Finlay gets the
In
goal.
your case, every question's a stupid question.
Right, okay. Anyway, Stuart Finlay gets the winning goal. A brilliant moment for Hearts, one that
Are
the
we talking
travelling fans and the
talking about the football again?
yeah,
Oh,
we have been talking about the football the whole time. Anyway, the Hearts fans they'll remember that a big travelling support I noticed on the
yeah.
highlights.
Oh, but one thing I will say, I don't know if the away support celebrated hard enough. They don't seem like they have the mentality for that league title charge.
No, I think they did celebrate hard enough. Actually, I think they celebrated
Oh,
like champions.
a bit too much. A bit too much.
No, I don't think it was. I think it was. I'm not a celebration police. I don't really care how you celebrate a goal. I'm just looking into it. I'm just posing the
A
question.
team that wins the league doesn't celebrate a last minute goal like they've just won the cup.
What?
That could be
Sorry,
that could be
People have definitely said that. Have I said that?
I'm just winding you up. big man.
All right,
Yeah,
okay.
that
No, but I
that
think
that that could be this week's title, though. The celebration, please.
yeah,
Yeah.
celebration place. It could be. I'm maybe I'm falling into celebration place. But anyway, yeah, great celebration from Hearts. Stuart Finlay. You can see the jubilation as he heads for the corner, and all the Hearts players join him. And Lawrence Shankland sort of winds up the Dundee United fans on his way. But no, a real big win for Hearts. Massive, and take it one game at a time. You never know what they can do. I don't think any of us think that they're going to be able to crack a top two finish. But
Maybe
you would you would definitely have to say they're favourites for third at the
if it
minute.
keeps going if it keeps going the way it is, I think they'll definitely get top two.
Possibly,
Yeah.
possibly.
Is this you getting ready for the Rangers relegation battle, Alex?
Mate, why not? A wee bit of spice in my life. Fed up of finishing 15 points behind in second. I want to be scraping up to 10th.
Yeah, I mean, from
Fair
from,
enough.
from experience, Alex, it is quite different.
Yeah. And I think I was going to touch on earlier. I think for Hearts another great win. Dundee United. I think they're looking a lot better than what I first thought of them. I think some of their signings. I know Alex, you mentioned that even Dolcek's goals all probably preventable from opposition, but again, Panucci Kamara from the highlights that I've seen looked pretty good. And Zachary Sapsford was brilliant the other night in Vienna. So. Yeah, I think some of their signings are starting to fit in now. When you sign a whole new starting 11 near enough, then it's probably going to take time. But Dundee United are.
Big
Um,
Sybil's been holding the fort down for the OGs.
who is it?
Big Sybil, he's been holding the fort
Yeah,
down for the Scotsman.
I one of the few survivors, and one of the few Scotsmen as well. So I mean, Dundee United. By the way, I imagine Stuart Mitchell will have spoken about this, but they've had one heck of a rebuild over the summer.
yeah, definitely. The, Probably the biggest turnover in the league. Maybe along with Livingston, but yeah, I think that's all from this weekend's action. Another, unless any of you have got anything to add.
Um, Not particularly. No, I'll just leave it on this point. Rangers are winning the treble.
Okay, Laurie,
Okay.
Kilmarnock winning the treble
And
as well.
no, but Ben Brannan's probably off to PSG or something.
Well,
Right,
well,
okay.
well. See on that, Kilmarnock winning the treble and Rangers winning the treble. I think both things are just as likely. So
That was my point, Alex. You read my mind there. But anyway, thank you very much to you two for joining me. Thank you very much to the viewers for watching or listening. Go and check out the Twitter at the Dugout 2024, and go and check out the TikTok. Alex has been on there almost every day, as he always is. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.